So for documentation purposes,
okay.
What is your name?
Yeah. Ife Diran.
Awesome. And what do you do for a living?
Ife Diran and Ife Diran for convenience.
Okay, sure. And then we'll say, what do you do for a living?
You see, this is like the hardest question for me to answer. So the short form would be that I manage content and talent.
Okay, sure. And then my follow-up question to that was very easy. I was like, so did you always plan to manage talent, or did it just happen over time?
It happened over time, mostly because I'm a creative myself, and I'm not just someone who can maybe just sing. I have multiple interests within the creative and entertainment space. And I found that over time, I usually, as opposed to the performers I've met, I usually seem to be the person who understands structure to some degree. And that's how I ended up managing talent.
Now, when you say structure, what do you mean?
Okay, by structure, I mean that, first of all, a lot of the talent that I've met, they feel that, okay, so I can dance. People are supposed to be able to find me, full stop. But then I was the one who was now able to explain that if you don't make yourself seen or heard, nobody is going to be able to, find you. And at the same time, you're not entitled to anybody's time. You have to make the effort. And there are processes and ways in which you can go about doing this, even if it's just by using social media. But you have to understand that if your passion is going to become a source of income, then there are things that you just have to do. You just have to learn. And if you are not willing to do the business part of it, then you have to attach yourself to someone who can.
Have you ever said that before? It seems like something you've definitely repeated to someone before.
I've actually never put it this succinctly to anyone, but I've written so many articles over time, and I've spoken to so many different people over time that I've gotten to a point where I have some clarity of thought as to what it is I'm trying to do with the people that I work with.
Sure. And so staying on the topic of managing talent, let's talk about your talent. Singing. Okay,
well,
yeah, because actually...
Okay, well, at the moment, Yeah, go ahead.
No, you got it.
Go ahead.
You got it. No, you said at the moment...
Oh, well, at the moment, I only manage the Isomers. They're an indie rock band in Abuja. And I always tend to manage one act at a time because I feel like whoever I'm working with deserves my 100% attention. I don't like to be distracted from the people I'm working with, especially if it's long term, because, it takes time. It takes time to build a successful career. It really does. And sadly, independent artists in Abuja especially, I'd say, don't necessarily have access to the funds that they need to move from point A to point B. So taking on more than 5 or 6 of them at a time, or 2 or 3 of them at a time, can end up being way too much work. So it's best to focus on one and then move on. That's how I've been doing it, at least.
And what about your singing career?
Okay. I think I came to terms with the fact that having a full-time career as a musician was not for me. And I'll tell you why. I'm one of those creatives who, especially when it comes to singing and doodling and performing, I don't like the pressure that comes with it. In the earlier days, I went for auditions for Nigerian Idol, I went for Project Fame, and then I went for Star the Winner Is, which I was picked for. I was the first person that was picked from Abuja, and I think one of the only 2. And I went to South Africa, I won 400K and came back. But when I came back, I literally broke down because the pressure was too much. I wasn't prepared for it. The only thing I knew how to do was get on the stage, sing, and even if I was under pressure, I can go through the performance and then afterwards, that's when I start shaking. But then the mental stress and then the pressure that came with it when I came back, it was almost like PTSD, was a little too much for me. And that's when I realized that if I'm going to do this, it has to be something that I enjoy without the pressure that comes with a full-time career. So I'm that person who would gladly go for karaoke or there's a small open mic session. And if I'm feeling up to it, then I get on stage and sing. But actually to pursue a full-time career, it's not for me. And even if I decide to do a couple of things, like maybe put a project out here and there once in a blue moon, for my own personal satisfaction, it's something that I would contract to a person who would manage that project so that I wouldn't have to go through the mental stress.
The thing is that, so the reason why I asked that, because there was one time that you said that it's ironic that the one thing I love the most and the thing that comes to me naturally is the thing I shy away from the most. And so, I mean,
you have done your research.
Yes, and I even listened to your cover of Daniel Caesar's Best Part with Bambi, your puppy, my. And like you have an awesome voice.
Oh my!
And so like I was just wondering like
thank you.
Why do you shy away from singing? But you kind of answered it, but not really.
No, but you see, it's at the end of the day, I've learned to understand myself a lot better. One thing that I have noticed, and that it's very common to creatives, our means of expression is an extension of our emotions. And for me, the moment I feel like I cannot express myself freely without it being attached to external things outside of my emotions, it becomes even harder for me to express. The one thing that does not suffer from that kind of, pressure, regardless of how I'm feeling, is writing. Because whether I'm writing about my emotions or I'm writing about something that I'm interested in, so long as it's coming out, I'm fine. Do you understand? Regardless of whatever comments or responses I get. But when it comes to music, when it comes to drawing, when it comes to dancing, when it comes to probably acting on stage or acting in general, or just basically goofing around and making people around me laugh, the moment it becomes something that I have to either do on demand or do because it's what other people want, as opposed to it being a source of relief for me, then it becomes a problem. I've had a lot of times where I've had like a creative block because of the fact that I'm not doing it for myself. I'm doing it because there's a demand on it. So because of that, I know that becoming a musician who has to then create on demand would be very hard for me. I then become the artist that a manager would say is difficult, just because at that point in time, I really can't create because of the pressure.
True.
So music, like I said, music is something that if at all I decide to do projects for myself with time, it would not be because I'm actively pursuing a career. It's because I'm like, okay, I'm in the headspace where I don't mind singing a couple of songs whether I wrote them or not.
And then
so, yeah.
There's another time that you definitely sang some songs that I guess you didn't write, but and this was a Star. The winner is, and so when I found out about that, show me the money. Like the whole thing was just very, like
oh my goodness,
you and what's her name? Naomi and
Naomi.
Yeah. When somebody walks up to you with the name Naomi, is it automatic beef? Is it just like, I don't like you?
No. I've never been someone who I don't necessarily have the space to hold grudges in my heart. I've always had a very big heart, but apart from that, I don't consider myself as a competitive person per se. I've always been that person who believes that there's enough room for anybody and everybody. And to be quite honest, during that competition, fun fact, I was quite aware when I stumbled in the third performance or so, because I was intimidated and I could tell. But I masked it with performance, and I knew when I forgot my lyrics, but then I just kept it moving. And another fun fact, before I went, I spoke to a friend of mine, and he was like, when in doubt, take the money. So once I knew that I had messed up a bit, I didn't even think twice. When they asked, take the money or don't take the money, I took the money because I knew that I had stumbled. I believe that I'm pretty much objective with myself to some degree.
Yeah, I think that's so. Since this is everyday stories, the question I really wanted to ask you was, what's the story behind you being on the show?
Behind me being on the show, okay, so it was quite random, to be honest. I had just finished working on a project with a friend of mine. It was called Grease the Ninja Mix, and it was the first Broadway-esque production in Abuja as at then. And even though I was brought on to do PR, I ended up being part of the cast. I ended up being the vocal coach. I ended up doing a lot. So people who didn't know I could sing at that time were like, oh my goodness, and stuff. So the guy that we cast as the lead, he was not necessarily a singer, but with the amount of training that we were able to give him, he was able to, at least carry the character as he was supposed to. And one of his friends then reached out to him when this competition came up and asked him to audition. And he was like, no, I can't audition, but ask Ife. So he calls me and then he's like, oh, I was told to call you. And I was like, when is the audition? They're like, today. I'm like, nope, I'm not going. That's how the people in the house were like, get up, Ife, just go, just go. I was broke. I was exhausted. I was not in the least bit prepared for anything like this. But they were like, just go, just go. Next, I started getting phone calls. Ife, you go for the audition. I was like, crap. If I don't go, I don't think I will hear the end of it. So in the bathroom, I mixed like 3 of my favorite songs at that time in my head on the spot, and then sang it all the way to the audition place. Sat and waited for like 2-3 hours, already getting tired. And then eventually they called me in. I didn't even look at the judges. I just went straight into what I had to sing. And when I was done, the guy just said, so just tell us your story now so we can give you your golden ticket. And I was like, huh? He was like, yes, your golden ticket. I was like, what's it? Hey? He's like, you're going to South Africa. Yes. In my mind, I was like, wait, hold up. Did I hear that right? And then so someone then came to take me out and was like, this is how it's going to go down. We'll send you the contract. They'll send you all the travel details, blah, 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 blah. We'll let you know you're the first person that has been picked from Abuja in all the auditions they've been doing since morning. I was just like, interesting and stuff. But I was in shock. But then at the same time, I wasn't too surprised. And this is not me being arrogant. It's just that when I feel confident, I know that I've done a good job. Then I'm like, okay. But if I know I haven't, then I'll be like, are you sure you guys made the right choice? And stuff. So fast forward to prepping for the show and everything. To be quite honest, I was like a deer in headlights. I've never had to handle travel details myself or, go to the embassy and all kinds of things. And a lot of crap happened in between. I didn't realize that if you don't have a passport that is like a year valid or whatever, that you have to, so I was running from pillar to post to sort things out. So by the time it was, time for us to travel, I was exhausted. I was very exhausted and stuff. And then, we got to South Africa. I made friends with Nonso Bassi, who is still my friend now, and everything. But it was a bit of a blur. The weather was cold, but I liked it. The food was great. We were treated really well and stuff. And then basically it was you being paired up with your vocal coach for that time and everything. So I think one of the things the major thing that made me stumble in my third song was it was a simple act preparation. When you feel like you know the lyrics of a song because you've heard it so much, but you only actually know the chorus. That was exactly what happened. So the other 2 songs, I had rehearsed the lyrics before I left Abuja because I knew that I love these songs, but I don't know all the lyrics.
Mm-hmm.
But this particular song, it was, what do you call it? Over familiarity that was doing me with the song. And it was when I got into rehearsal that I realized that I actually don't know all the lyrics of the song. And I suck at singing in pidgin and everything. But I was like, yeah, whatever. We shall get through this and stuff. Mm-hmm. So that was really cool and everything. And then, of course, I think my most awkward experience was the actual interview. I find that I don't really like sitting in front of the camera. It takes a while for me to get comfortable in front of the camera. So I was a bit awkward about that and everything. But then, after that, it was just, costume trials and getting your hair done and makeup, which I usually run away from, and wearing lashes for the first time. And I'm like, what the hell? These are wipers. How do girls wear this stuff? And everything. And basically after that, it was countdown to the actual performance, which after shaking like a leaf, I left my nerves I left my nerves with the audience and went on stage and acted like there was nothing wrong. And my first two songs, I knew that nobody had to tell me, but I knew that I killed it. I knocked Nonso out in the first round, and I knocked one rapper chick out in the second round and stuff. But then with Naomi, that's where I met my match. And my heart was already beating before I even got on stage because she sang before me. So my heart was already like, oh, crap, she just killed it and stuff. So I was already shaking by the time I got on stage. And once I fumbled through my lines and stuff, the funny thing is I didn't immediately realize that I had, skip the lyrics. But the moment I did, I continued and I started dancing. Distraction. I started dancing so that I could just get through it without, shaking like a leaf. And just fake it till I get off the stage and stuff. And then once I was done, I was just like, whew, oh my, it's done. What next? And stuff. Then, of course, the money thing. And then I chose the money. I was so happy to just leave because I think the weight of the pressure dawned on me once the actual performances was done. And I was done with the competition. That was when I started to feel a little, I started feeling a little ill. I started feeling a little panicky. That's when I realized that the weather had gotten to me a lot more than I thought. I think adrenaline got me through most of the trip and most of the experience and stuff. And then when I got home, that was when I shut down. And it took me a very long time to get out of it. And it wasn't like anything that, I don't know how to put it. It's just that I didn't realize how much pressure could affect me until that happened and stuff. So it took me a while. It took me a while to kind of snap out of it and be like, whew, it's over now, But then again, I'm also a very emotional and then sensitive person. So it sometimes it takes me a lot to get worked up. But at the same time, it also takes me a lot to, calm down depending on the situation and stuff. So, all in all, it was a good experience. But it also helped me to come to terms with my capacity per time.
So, if you had the chance to do it again, would you?
A competition, I don't think so. To perform on stage, probably, yeah. But then, of course, I'd have to have enough time to prepare. But an actual competition, I don't think so. I don't think so. Unless it's something that is, I don't know, maybe properly structured. Because I also feel like some of the things that affected me was the fact that everything happened in such a very short period of time. A production that probably should have lasted, 10 days per segment was squeezed into 3 days, and stuff like that. So, but then I think I'd be more willing to get on stage to perform, at a show or something than to actually compete.
Because I'm thinking about the rematch.
Yeah.
Naomi versus Ife.
Oh, hell no. There's no need. I can tell you straight. I can tell you right off the bat that she would smack me silly because I'm so rusty right now and stuff. But no,
you must win.
Rematch? No, I'm not. I don't fit. I think the only thing that could make me get in a competition right now would basically just be for the PR. The PR of it all and stuff. And not necessarily for me as a person, but for, whatever businesses I'm doing and stuff. But like I said, it would take a lot for me to actually agree to go on a show again. And it would have to be a show that knows what they're doing. So all in all.
One day. But
yeah. one day.
And so I know you now as Ife. But on the show, I think you were going by Isis. Right? And so...
yes, oh my goodness.
Did you go by the name Isis before the show? Or was it a name that you created for the show? No.
The name existed way before the show. Oof, I have a lot of long stories. They're taking me back and stuff. Even the show is as far back as 2014. But Isis is a name that was my pen name. It started out as the name of a character in a book I was attempting to write when I was in university. And a couple of friends that read it liked it so much that they started calling me Isis, which is the name of the character. And when I started blogging in 2011, I didn't want to, because I always try not to draw too much attention to myself if I can, even though sometimes my personality is bigger than my body. But when I started blogging, I didn't necessarily want to have my name on it per se. So I came up with a pseudonym, a pen name, and it was Isis Drain. Drain is Diran rearranged. And then Isis, of course, was the name of the character. And I started blogging with that name. And the first time I wrote a new segment on my blog called The Adventures of Isis Drain, that was when the cat was let out of the bag, because it was basically about me going out and enjoying a show or an event or something. And I had to put up my picture. And so everybody was like, oh, Isis. And I was like, oh, crap, here we go. And stuff. So that was how the name came about. And by the time the show happened, most people who had either seen me in passing or didn't know me so well and stuff just attached the name that's Isis and stuff. So the name it's stuck on a lot of people's minds and stuff, even though I go by my real name now, because eventually I think I shut the blog down like 2 years ago and stuff. But it's a name that I don't see it going anywhere. People are used to it now, and I don't mind really. So, yeah. And
I say you don't mind, right? But, I saw a post that was like, receive it. My name is this. The brand is this. Please don't.
And the brand is this.
No confusion, please.
No, I had to. I had to do that because I got to a point where I felt like I was having a bit of a, I call it an identity crisis, so to speak, because once the blog became a business, I focused all the content on just the business itself. And I don't like bringing too much attention to myself. So I didn't put up too many pictures of myself regardless, and tried to minimize, personal gist or personal stories or diary-like entries to my personal page, and then opened a separate page for it and stuff. But then I realized that some people would come to my personal page to ask me about things that are business related, and then go to my business page to ask me personal things. So I had to figure out a way to just strike a balance. So for a while, my personal page was private, then I made it public so that I could just, sift back and forth and everything. So, yeah.
And so it was more of like people kept saying Isis. You're like, no. Look, this is who I am. And even right now.
Exactly. So let's focus. Yeah.
Oh, even the Isis Drain Instagram
I was
page.
like, so let's just focus on the. Yeah.
It's right. I think it's even
Go ahead,
private.
sorry.
It's private. Because I think I was trying to see behind
Yes,
the lock. I was like, do I request? Let me just wait.
No, it's private now. It's private now because the blog eventually shut down due to some carelessness on one part, and then on the other part, the fact that I felt like I had outgrown the blog, that it wasn't serving the purpose I had for it initially anymore. So I shut it down. And of course, a lot of things happened. A couple of clients hired me for some big projects that I didn't see coming. And I didn't have time to write anymore either. I did get some people to write for me, but then of course, managing people sometimes when you have a lot to do is not so easy and stuff. So I asked myself, do I feel like this is something that I can carry into the next phase of my career? Is it something that I feel will still benefit me and, the readers and the audience that I have? And I realized that I didn't have anything to offer as substantially as I used to, as far as that platform was concerned. So it was time for me to streamline because I can do a lot of things and because I have a lot of interests. Sometimes I tend to take on more than I can chew. And like I said, I've learned over time what my capacity per time is. So I realized that it was time to let it go. So I did. And I put it on private. I didn't delete the account because it still serves as a good reference point every now and then. And of course, that's like, a couple of years of hard work. So, going back there every once in a while to just look at something I put out there was cool and everything. But then I got to a point where I was able to identify what I wanted to do. And I realized that I wanted to focus a little bit more on myself because I tend to hide in the shadows. Not because I like it. I think it's it's peaceful and stuff. Yes, it's peaceful. And then it also allows me to function without feeling like I have multiple people looking over my shoulder, so to speak. So I decided to focus on myself a little bit more. I also decided to streamline what exactly it is I wanted to do within the creative space and stuff. And then, of course, focus on some content that is based on my personal interests because content is king, distribution is queen. And if I know how to create the content, why not?
Hey, boss. Well done. No, think of that. And so you said content is king and your interests. Now there's one interest that I think we all know that you have, right? And that is the Bollywood scene, the Bollywood nerd.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes.
And so I just wanted to know.
I'm quite proud of it, even though a lot of people are like, "What?"
No, it's awesome. I do my due diligence and go through every single post, and so you definitely put in the work.
I noticed.
And so from there's one guy in particular that I see all the time in Z World. Something Khan. He's he's an older guy.
Shah Rukh Khan.
Yeah, there you go.
Shah Rukh Khan.
There you go. See, by being on your blog, I'm already learning everyone's names because I know him by face, but I don't know. I didn't know his name, and so I just wanted to know where did your love for all things Bollywood begin?
Okay, that's an interesting story. So. Like I said before, my creativity is an extension of my emotions. And just like with my blog, which started because I was grieving, the Bollywood nerd also started mostly because I was grieving. However, the interest for Bollywood itself started in 2015. I didn't have a lot of work to do at the time. I think I was slightly depressed as well. And I had way too much time on my hands. And at that time, Z World had just started in Nigeria on, DSTV and whatever. And before they started doing their 50,000 episode soap operas, they started showing some old Bollywood movies. And I found that the 2 or 3 that I watched, like Viva and Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham, they were actually really good stories. And I realized that people had stereotyped what Bollywood films are, because of the few ones that they've seen that are probably a little exaggerated in the drama and the action and stuff. But I ended up following like 2 of the series for a while, which were really good. Lali, fun fact, Lali on DSTV, it's called Halita, and it's the Nigerian adaptation of Lali. But anyways, moving on. So once I got a little bit once I got a little bit interested in what I was seeing, I was like, let me see if I can find some more stuff. I was flying around like pure water. So I was like, let's do this, because Bollywood films are like 3 hours, 2 hours plus and stuff. So you need to have the data for it and everything. So I basically started where I was familiar. Shah Rukh Khan is the name that everybody hears and knows, and I had seen Kuchi Kuchi Hot, a list of some of his films that I want to see and stuff. And at the same time, I'm also very accommodating of
Ife. Hello. Uh-oh.
of them. My interest was immediately piqued, and I started, searching for films based on directors, based on how much I liked a film that they had already done. And before I knew it, I was hooked. I went on YouTube to check, and I found so much information from reading, their blogs and these review shows and industry analysis shows on YouTube, that it just became the thing and stuff, especially because I'm sure that's not a new thing to anyone. And sometimes I find Hollywood a bit repetitive. Sometimes it feels like you're getting the same thing over and over again. So it was good. It was interesting, and I think a welcome alternative for me and everything. But then the more I watched Bollywood films, it became not just about the content, but the fact that they are so comfortable and appreciative of their own culture, that they've created a culture for their industry that is nothing like any other industry. And even do well in Bollywood because of the way they have created that. And the stories keep improving. The quality of their movies keep improving. It's amazing to see how it has grown in the last 5 years based on everything that I have personally been exposed to. And I've always felt that if Nigeria took a leaf out of their book, our industry might be a lot better, especially if we properly inculcate our culture into our movies without turning it into Babalao versus stepwife and whatever. Even if those things happen, if the stories are told properly, if the content is done properly, if the video quality is done properly, and the storytelling is properly detailed and the acting properly directed, people will be able to appreciate it a lot more. And that's the truth. I mean, there's some fantasy-based things that happen in Bollywood films too. But because the execution is so well done, it's easier to swallow.
Definitely.
And stuff. So yeah, it's just become a thing.
I think it's because there's some African magical movies you watch, and it's like, come on, let's whoever.
Yeah, I don't even bother.
I
don't bother anymore. I don't bother. The first time my father introduced us to Yoruba films and stuff and all that jazz and everything was happening, they became the horror films for me. So I would watch a regular horror film and be scared shitless, but I'd watch a Yoruba film and not be able to sleep and stuff. And I'm like, no, why?
No.
What?
And it's true because, like, I think, like, for example, maybe some Babalao guy would try to throw like a fireball, but you literally see like a JPEG of the fireball moving. Then they'll now hit the person. Yeah. Oh my goodness.
See, I don't like to it's embarrassing. And you see, I don't like to throw the baby out with the bath. There hasn't been like good films that have come out of Nollywood, even back in the day when, the VFX and whatever was crap. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like we've gotten to a point where we can elevate those things. We can do them a lot better. I know that new Nollywood is, they're doing a better job as far as quality goes, but it's become so elitist. And I don't feel like we're telling real stories. I don't feel like we're telling real Nigerian stories that everyone can relate to, stories that are really about us and not the westernized version of who we want to be. Mm. I feel like we're losing so much of our culture because we're glamorizing the minority.
I like that, glamorizing the minority. I'm gonna write that in my wall. That's definitely a line right there. And so back to so staying on the Bollywood nerd, right? So I believe you made your first post on the page in May of this year, right? But already, hey, you've gotten a message from one of the major production companies in Bollywood, And so question. When you got that message from Dharma Productions, the big time people, been here for a year. How did you feel?
Oh my goodness. You should have seen me. And it came at the perfect time because I was traveling back to Abuja and the ride, because I did a road trip, I don't know what I was thinking, was terrible. And then the message comes in just as I get into Abuja and I'm like, oh yes, silver lining, hello, silver lining. I was so happy. And the funny thing is, the reason why it was such a big deal for me is because the owner of Dharma Productions is, to me, one of the most influential men in Bollywood today. No matter what anyone has to say, he really is. And I've looked up to his work, not just as a director, but mostly as a businessman, because he's very strategic. He understands trends. He understands the times. I feel like a lot of people have focused so much on the curated version of him that he gives off as a personality for these TV shows that they've completely forgotten the fact, or, haven't paid attention to the fact that this man still churns out some of the most commercially successful films, whether he's on the directing table or the writing table or the producing table. So when I got the message, I was like, and everything. Yeah. I think it felt kind of like a confirmation of sorts, like, okay, I'm doing something that makes some sense. Because as much as I put up my first post in May, I didn't start posting consistently until about June-ish, July-ish. And before that, it had taken almost 2 years of my friends badgering me that, Madam, you know so much about this industry, you should start a YouTube channel. You know so much about this industry, you should start this, you should start. And I was like, no, I don't have time. And and I complained and whined about it and stuff. And then lockdown happened and I was like, shit, I'm bored. And stuff. And I found myself watching a lot more movies than I, would have time for. And I was like, by the time I got to Lagos, I was like, yeah, we're grieving. What is the best thing to do? Let's write. But I'm not interested in spilling my guts. I'm only interested in writing. So I was like, if I'm watching a movie, I'll write about it. And before I knew it, I had written like 5 reviews in 2 days. I was like, okay, let's go. Let's go. And if that became my pastime throughout the whole period that we were dealing with at home, I got home and I was like, it's fun. I'm enjoying myself. And I think one of the things that was my major satisfaction was like one of the first 4 or 5 people that followed me are actually Bollywood nerds themselves. So they would slide into my DM and you see us dissecting films and talking about stuff. And I'm like, okay, this makes sense, And I was like, yeah, I might as well continue. Besides, like I said before, if I can make the content, why not?
And so the audience, so when you sent your video for the audience reaction, did it show on TV?
Yeah.
Was it like plastered on a billboard in India? Or...
No,
I don't know.
It was not that deep. It wasn't that deep. It was mostly social media, and the reason for that was because the film that we were doing the reaction video for, Gunjan Saxena, the Cargill Girl, it was supposed to be a theater release. And when it's a theater release, of course, the press, the PR, the promotions, it's a lot bigger. But because of the lockdown and everything, they decided to sell it to Netflix. So it was released online instead. So all of the promotions then had to be, funneled into digital marketing only and stuff. So they ended up doing a lot more content online. And of course, that Netflix too, most of their promotions happens online anyways and stuff. So they ended up creating a lot more than before. And of course, there was also the issue of the fact that there's been some kind of upheaval in the Bollywood industry due to the death of one of their upcoming actors. And because of that, it has been shining a bit of a negative light on like kids who are star kids and, the whole issue of nepotism that is an age-old debate in Bollywood and stuff. And the girl who was the lead in this film happens to be a star kid. So to try and ensure that negativity didn't affect the film and the streaming numbers so badly, they constantly went at it with the PR and the promotions and everything. And things like that reaction video and people sending in reviews and from real life people was meant to ensure that after the film had hit Netflix, they were able to sustain the streaming numbers as much as possible. So that was basically what the strategy was and stuff. So most of the content went online.
I'm pretty sure when they found the Bollywood nerd, when they found your page, they were like, Lagos, Nigeria. What? You know?
Honestly, I don't think it was that deep because there's also the fact that I engaged with their page a lot and stuff. Mostly because their content is, a lot of the Dharma films that were done mostly in the 90s and early 2000s are those films that became like cult classics and very popular rom-coms, the way you have things like, what's it called? She's All That and all those kind of things. So they always put up like, clips from those films that make their page like a place where you can go and like a guilty pleasure for nostalgia, basically, and stuff. So I used to comment a lot and like I do on a lot of other pages. So she reached out to me. The representative reached out to me and she spoke to me and she's like, she's been following me and stuff. And she noticed that I always comment on some of their posts and everything. And she was like, okay, we're doing this. And I was like, are you serious? This is Dharma, blah, 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 blah. She was like, so where are you? I'm like, I'm in Nigeria. She's like, what? She's like, you're in Nigeria? I'm like, yes, I'm in Nigeria. She's like, I can't believe it. Every person that she has spoken to is either in India or, surrounding countries and everything, that she didn't even know that there was an audience for Bollywood per se in Nigeria. And I was like, if only you knew. And stuff, and that was basically it.
And so it was definitely something that like it wasn't surprising. It was meant to happen. It was because you were already commenting, you were interacting with their page. So when she hops in your DMs, you're like, finally, you have come. So
I guess just the interaction put me on their radar.
And so you said that, I guess, writing reviews and just Bollywood in general brings satisfaction, right? And so I guess another thing that brings you satisfaction and peace is doodling. And so I'll ask you, would you consider the process of you creating your doodles as a form of therapy?
Right now, I don't think so. Again, it's one of, if you notice, as much as I put out my doodles, they're not that much on my page because it doesn't happen too often. And it usually happens when my head is clogged. And that takes a while, but my head is clogged. I can't write. I'm not in the mood to sing. I'm not at a point where I feel like I can fully express how I'm feeling. That's when I doodle because I don't have to say anything. I leave it to the pen and the paper and stuff. So it's not even something. It's one thing that can never happen on demand because it can never happen on demand. Not because I wouldn't sit down to do it, but because it takes a certain headspace and it also takes a lot of time. I've had a couple of friends who were like, when they saw the first two I put up, they were like, am I going to frame it? Are they for sale? Are they blah, blah, blah? I said, no, y'all ain't going to do this to me. It's not for sale. Enjoy the Instagram. Receive it on the gram and leave it there. And so if in a couple of years it appreciates and I decide to sell it so that I can change my sketch pad, but then it's not happening. It's no.
And so what if one of those friends were like, Ife, I have those 500,000 naira. Let me buy this doodle now. You say no.
I'll give it to them. It's right here. If it's to take something that exists right now, if it's something that they really like and it already exists, I will just pull it out of my sketch pad, frame it, send it to you, collect the 500,000, and be happy with myself and put it in my travel fund. I must go to India next year.
So what if they tell you to create a doodle?
I don't know about that one.
500.
I really don't. No, because this is the thing. This is the thing. If you ask me to create or demand, there are two things that are an issue for me. One, I have to be in the headspace, right? There's that. And then two, there's also the issue of you might have some input in what you want to see. And my art doesn't work like that. I'm not an illustrator. I'm not that kind of artist. It's free form. So the moment you try to attempt to tell me what to do, it just won't happen. It won't happen unless I'm collaborating with someone who probably could illustrate and then I doodle around it. But already thinking about it is no. It may be in the nearest future because I think, I don't know, maybe in the future, but right now it's no, because where I'm at in my life right now is setting up the things that are sustainable for me. And so everything else that I know would require me to do way more than I'm ready to handle right now is just going to sit down somewhere. That's just it. Like for instance, I will never not know how to doodle. Neither will I never not know how to sing. So if I decide to sing when I'm 50, but I have my sustainable things that have been running and are fine, then I can do whatever I like without thinking about how much is going into my account. Because then I can sing what I want, sing how I want, sing as often as I want. Even pursuing a musical career in itself, it's a huge investment. And if you don't have the money, you're at the mercy of a label or at the mercy of whoever is sponsoring you or just at the mercy of your quivering bank account. So I can't deal.
And so you keep saying headspace, right? So when that headspace is just like life is going great. There's like there's something that has to happen for that headspace to like be present, or is it just every now and then?
Well, it's not it's not necessarily about life being great. It's more about my emotional state, where I am emotionally. Because like I said, my emotions drive a lot of the things that come to me creatively. And like I also said before, writing is the only thing that I can do on demand. it's the one thing that I don't have to think too much about it. If it's something that I'm doing for myself, it's even more enjoyable. But if you ask me to do it for you, it comes naturally because I found my voice as a writer from the beginning. I call my style of writing real talk. I write exactly the way I talk. And it's only if you ask me to do something a little bit more serious that I try to tone it down. But then it comes to me naturally. So there's nothing like trying to find how best to write it. If it requires research, once I've done the research, the way it needs to be written is already there. You understand what I'm saying? But my emotional state is very important to me. And I'm one of those people that I deal with my own mental health issues here and there, from depression and sometimes anxiety. So because of that, I find that when I'm a little bit more moody than normal, I create a bit more. I'm a lot more expressive. It might not necessarily be talking, but I'm a lot more expressive. And then if I'm also a bit, if I'm quite happy, I tend to do a lot more physical stuff, a lot more engagement with people, a lot more social stuff. But I've become very self-aware, especially in the past 2-3 years, enough to know when something is overwhelming. And I tend to mass produce ideas in my head. So when that happens, it's very easy to be overwhelmed by doing nothing and just thinking about the many things that you want to do or the many ideas that you're dealing with. That in itself can become overwhelming. But then at the same time, I feel like I have to pace myself. And when I'm overwhelmed, I find that I can't do very much. That's when I go through that creative block that I was talking about. And it was when I learned, and then of course, I end up doodling, but it was when I learned how to pace myself that the frequency of me having a creative block reduced drastically. Because I realized that a lot of the pressure was coming mostly from me putting myself under pressure and not people putting me under pressure. But it takes a lot of it. It takes you slowing down for you to even be able to pay attention to yourself enough to know how things are affecting you and how much you're meant to do and how much you're not supposed to be doing. It takes you slowing down to do that. And trust me, I was never someone who used to slow down until about 2-3 years ago. I always try to attempt to do a lot of things, and you find out that you have so many unfinished things and then 2 or 3 things that are finished based on what you're more interested in than the other. So yeah, it takes time to get to know yourself. But the moment you do get to that point, then things might not necessarily be understand them better enough to be able to know how to handle them. If that answers your question, I think. Yeah. I was rambling.
No, it does. The thing is, one thing I got from that, you said like you have, I guess at one point you were doing a lot, so a lot of things were uncompleted, right? And so let's transition to something that you did complete. And so something that you did complete, and that was, the Keexs footwear deal for the I Summers, for the I Summers indie rock band. Yeah, and so I just wanted to know.
I feel like this is an expose. No, seriously, because after this comes out, so many people who have always just known the idea of me will know a lot more than they should. But it's all good.
No, it's all good. No, the thing is that, but you two you're a celebrity now. You're famous small. You've been on shows, TV.
Celebrity, Bao, please, I beg. I beg. I'm not a celebrity. Please.
No.
Right here, please, I'm not a celebrity. I don't even want to be.
No, but I was just wondering, in regards to the deal, right? How much work did you have to do to make that happen?
Okay. So the first thing I will say is that it was grace. I find it very hard to take absolute credit for it because it was grace. And I'll tell you how. We planned a trip to Lagos for a mini media tour and stuff. And during the time when we were planning, I actually wasn't even feeling so well. And I don't know, for some reason, I was so dogged about what I wanted to do. So the two friends I had access to, I just, kept calling them to ask them different questions and different things. And I didn't really know much about how endorsements work per se. So I had to ask my friends some questions and everything. But then one of them, before I even started having those conversations, one of them just randomly said, "So what endorsements are you looking for your guys?" And I was like, I started reeling out things because I have like a list of things that I have to achieve with these guys. And the guy was just like, oh yeah, pick like 2 now and then look at these brands now and stuff like that. And he just randomly mentioned one of 2 names, and it was Keexs. And I've been following Keexs since they started because I'm a sneakerhead. I've always loved sneakers, but I used to run away from them because of how much their sneakers cost. So when the name came back, I was like, but I brushed it aside. I was like, let me focus on this Lagos Waka and everything. Then I got back and I was like, okay. So my friend was like, one time like that, he got a card from someone. So he was like, he doesn't know if it still works, but I should just check if the email address is still functional. So I was like, okay. I got home, I settled down. I was like, man, my brain needs to breathe and everything after the whole Lagos trip. And then one day I was just like, you know what, let me send this email. So I sent the email to Keexs and 2 other brands that I had in mind. And I just left it and I was like, whatever, they might not even respond. And I woke up one morning and I think like 2 days after, and I got a response from the owner of Keexs. And he was like, he saw my message, he's very interested, he'd like to meet me, he's on his way to Abuja. See, in my mind, I was just like, what? And stuff. But I was like, holy crap, for real? The next thing I knew, I was calling my friends. So just in case, these are the questions I should be asking, right? This is what I should be asking, right? Just so that I would not go into those meetings unprepared. I started reading about endorsements, asking questions. I called one of my friends to the point where she was just like, you had better get this endorsement because you have stressed my life and everything. And then he came in. We hung out for the 2 days. I basically followed him around like a PA because he had a lot of things to do. And by the time he was done with his visits, we had more or less gotten 60% into the deal because he was very interested. He felt that we aligned with his brand well and stuff. And me, I was just like, I can't believe it. I cannot believe it. Oh my God. And stuff. It took us a while to finally settle on like the specifics and everything. But by the time we were done, I was like, so Ife, do you mean that you've gotten the first endorsement for these guys? I didn't really believe it myself. And it was very hard for me to take any credit because I was just like, it's not like I put 1 and 2 and 3 together. This is basically the work of God. I can't even be forming that I'm a bad guy and everything. And then once stuff was sorted, he reached out to me and he was like, okay, this and this is happening. And then I came up with an idea for the campaign and everything. And he was like, oh, this would work for Valentine's Day. So let's just shoot this stuff and go all out. So I was like, all right, guys, let's do the music. The guys were ginger. They're seeing sneakers. Me too, I seen sneakers. All of us were like, hey, and stuff. Bar was appearing. I was like, yes, let's do this, and everything. Next thing I knew, we came up with a quick concept. My friend, Andy Chantu, who's an amazing guy, came and shot the video he just worked with whatever it is that we were able to come up with as far as concept and stuff goes. Phew! I became a one-man army to help him out that day. And the guys were things just fell into place. And then the announcement was when I was like, you don't mean it. This actually happened, and stuff. But yeah, it was a really good thing that happened, I have to say. No, I was quite proud of myself.
I mean, you should be. And you're saying you're not a celebrity. You're blown now. You're blown.
I'm not please don't be saying this kind of thing.
Who else can get the Keexs deal?
I'm not a celebrity. Anybody can get Keexs deal, please, so long as they have sense.
But see, not everyone can have Ife's sense. That's the thing.
I beg, please don't rub my head too much. It's not that deep. It's not that deep. I'm already thinking, what's the next big thing that I can get done for my guys? Because I'm determined to get them to a place where at least they'll be able to say that, yeah, Ife did some substantial stuff while she was working with us. That's the ultimate goal for me.
And how, and
because they really deserve whatever success we can achieve.
And when or where or even how did your paths cross with the iSummers? Did you know them like in before, maybe in the past in school or friends? Was it just a random something?
It was kind of random. There was a time when I used to go to almost every alternative like show and all those Freedom Hall like things and Tarua like things that were happening when Abuja was trying to find its footing as far as entertainment goes. And I had bumped into them a couple of times, but I didn't really feel them. You know, I sensed that there was something there, but it wasn't working for me. So I didn't really pay too much attention. And then I think like a year or two later, a friend of mine reached out to me and she was like, I should come and manage them. And I was like, no, I'm not interested. She was like, no, I'm not interested. I'm right now taking a break from anything management related. And I had too much on my plate, but I just wasn't, they hadn't made enough of an impression on me to be interested in any way. And stuff. And then I think another year passed and I heard one or two songs. And then I saw them perform and I found that everything had changed. They had grown. They seemed to have found their voices, their sound. And then my interest was piqued. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. Okay. But then again, I still wasn't looking down the lines of management because management is a very huge commitment. And I'd already worked with two people. We'd done as much as we could do. And I felt like it was time for me to take a break and just reevaluate if I could still continue to do this and actually make an impact in some way and stuff. And I think I can't even remember if I was the one who reached out to one of them or one of them reached out to me, but they were attempting to release their first album. That was 2018. Yeah, 2018. And me being me, I just saw a couple of things and just started reeling out suggestions. Nobody sent me. Once the conversation has started, I started reeling out suggestions. Why don't you try that? Oh, this, blah, 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 blah. Next thing I knew, we had a meeting. Before I knew it, we were talking management. I went home and I was like, hey, you have started. And stuff. But then when they now sent me the full album, I said, there's no need. Even if I try to say no to this, I know I can't. The music is, this works. This is what I'm looking for. And stuff. Because, to a decent degree, I can spot substantial potential and talent from a mile away, especially with music. So I was like, yep, this will work. I have to figure out how to make it more acceptable to a wider audience, but this works. And that's how we started. And I have to say that the reason why we are all still together right now is because all of them are extremely reasonable and understanding people, and they are mature. And I don't mean that by age. I mean that by sense. They are responsible. They understand what what is required of them, you know. And even in the things that are not necessarily their responsibilities, they are always willing to help or to, you know, have some form of input. So that makes the life of a manager easy. You don't have to be dragging your artist up and down. You don't have to be. And also, before I even showed up, they had figured out a system amongst themselves that works to some degree. So it was just a matter of me coming in to rearrange things a bit, but work with what they already had. And, you know, to try and make it a bit better, and then bring in the thing that they didn't have too much experience in. Me, myself, I'm learning. I tell everybody I'm a rookie. As a manager, I'm a rookie. But my strengths are the fact that naturally A&R comes easily to me. And then I'm persistent. If I have to knock down a door, I will do my very best to smash it down and get what I want and stuff. So combining that with the kind of human beings that they are and the kind of talent that they have and all the work that they have done before I even showed up has made it a lot easier for us to function. So I don't take too much of the credit because they have put in the work as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I just came to add some small salt.
And some pepper and some, Ife. and so, and so currently, are they the only artists that, I guess, technically, the only artists you manage right now? Or do you have other guys in the background?
They're the only ones I manage right now. A couple of people have come to me for management, but I don't want to take anybody on right now, to be honest. Like I said, I'm focusing a lot on myself and some of my own personal content and projects. And at the same time, I need to be able to give the isomers as much of my attention as I can manage. Mm-hmm. I need to be able to have achieved something substantial with them, enough for me to say, you know what, if I take on someone else, it's because I know that I can achieve XYZ with them. Mm-hmm. Plus, I'm managing 4 grown men. That in itself is like managing 4 artists. So there's no rush.
Don't rush me.
The talent will always be there.
Sure. And so let me ask you a random question. And so have you ever thought about going into pyrography?
Pyrography? No, I haven't. However, man, I have too many stories. This is my life. But last year, I met someone who does do pyrography. His cousin is my business advisor. And he was like, I have this cousin of mine that is an artist and he needs a mentor. And I was like, what kind of arts? The first thing he said was music. And I listened to the music. I was like, no, this isn't going to go very far. What else? And then he was like, he's actually an artist. And I was like, okay, can I see his stuff? And that's how I was introduced to the world of pyrography. And I was like, this is amazing stuff. I now sat down in my usual way and did research for days. Googled my life to call. Went to YouTube to watch videos. And then I now sat with him and said, oh, yeah, let's do experiments. So I showed him a couple of stuff. He tried to recreate them, replicate them, and do some other things. And by the end of the year, or was it early this year, I was able to get him into a small exhibition and stuff. And that was how I was introduced to pyrography. I don't think it's something that I would actually go into. It's something that I would probably attempt to do based on interest alone and curiosity, but not something that I would take up as a hobby.
Mm. Yeah, because doodling, I guess, has taken that place, right?
I wouldn't put it that way. No. The fact that I'm lazy, and if I'm not 100% interested in something, I can be curious enough to know how it works. Mm-hmm. Dedicated enough to stick to it.
And so, lastly, are you still in the world of? Okay, I think it's frozen. Hello. From my end, it seems to be a bit Ife.
Yeah, you just froze for like 30 seconds.
But and so are you still in the world of bullet journaling?
Oh no, I'm not. Oh, hey Jesus, you've really done your because most people do surface work. But no, I stopped bullet journaling because it's and I just basically went straight to and minimized it completely because I found that because to the whole designing every page and trying to make every page have a structure, I lost the true essence of what I really needed a journal for, and that was just to write out my thoughts. and how I'm feeling. And I'm a very spontaneous person to some degree. So too much structure actually puts me in a box. And I found that because bullet journaling is supposed to make you more organized, but then because everything is overtly detailed and overtly organized, it then put me in a place where I felt like I put myself in a box, and then I was trying to achieve too many things at once. Because I felt like I had to keep up with all the things I had in the boxes I had drawn. So eventually I was like, okay, this is on what journaling actually means to me and what it is for me. And then once I did that, I just basically kept one or two things from bullet journaling, which for me is just, designing a cover page for the month and then creating my mood tracker and my habit tracker. And that's it. And then I just continue my journaling. Every other thing straight out the window.
Tossed it out the window. But I think now you said it right now. You said that your habit and mood tracker. Is that like that's the first time I've heard those two things put together. Can you go into that? Like, do you just write, okay, right now I'm happy.
Okay, yeah. So
right now I'm sad. like how do you document that?
No, but okay. Okay, so basically with the habit tracker, there are a couple of things that I would like to do every day. And I'd like to, not too many things. I try not to, because there's no point in being unrealistic or lying to myself. If I can't tell myself the truth, then what the hell am I doing? But then, things like, exercise, it might just be a walk or, skipping or something, but to at least keep my hormones in check and stuff. So, there's, praying and then maybe reading my Bible and then some of the activities that I'm supposed to do and then eating, because I realize that when I'm busy, I forget to eat. Or when I'm occupied, I forget to eat. And it never does me any good in the long run and stuff. But then with my mood tracker as well, because like I said before, I deal with my own mental health issues and stuff. I found that because I tend to distract myself by default, I don't pay enough attention to how I'm feeling in a day. And then sometimes I may have gotten to a point where I'm completely drained and then I can't pinpoint how I got there. So I now have a mood tracker where, there's happy, irritated, calm, excited, insomnia, because that happens a lot sometimes, and different things, enough for me to be able to have an idea of, okay, when did this start? How did I get here? What happened? And because I journal almost every day, if I go through the month and then I realize that at one point I was extremely low and I check it with my journal entries, I can actually tell the reason why I was feeling this way and stuff. So yeah.
Awesome. I think that's so, because I was thinking about your mood tracker, right? It's like, if I was to track my mood right now, I'd be like, I'll be excited. I'm talking to Ife, yay. But yes, thank you so much. We have come to the conclusion of the interview.
I should say thank you, actually. This has been quite interesting.